Hey, I'm Josh, and I'm trying to help you understand a little bit about compensation and NEXA mortgage and how it works. So I want to just show you to start with a $100,000 loan. The reason I use a $100,000 loan is it makes the numbers really easy. And I want to talk to you about 225 basis points charged. If you charge 275 basis points on a loan with NEXA mortgage, that means that a $2,750 broker check or broker wire, or in this, it could be the wire is going to NEXA. So that money goes to NEXA. NEXA has to compensate you out of that money. Okay, in the scenario where it is well, actually in every scenario, borrower paid, lender paid, whatever, the first thing that happens is NEXA takes out of that $2,750, 25 basis points, which works out to $250. On a $100,000 loan, 25 basis points is $250. So they take 25 basis points out, and that leaves $2,500 in NEXA's money. Now, NEXA takes out 12%. In a $100,000 loan, that works out to $300. I want to show you three ways to look at this math, and this is because people's brains work differently. So you started with $2,750, you took out $250 for the 25 basis points, that leaves you with $2,500. Out of the $2,500, NEXA takes 12%, or that leaves 88%. So if you want to do the math to show what's remaining, you do 2,500 times 0.88, leaves you $2,200. Or 2,500 times 88% leaves you $2,200. Or if you want to be complicated, the way I got 88% is I just simply took 100 minus the 12% that NEXA takes. So 2,500 times 12% is 300, and 2,500 minus the 300 equals $2,200. So that's three different ways to do the math in your brain, in your head. Either way, what happens is 2,200 remaining goes to your ledger. Now, ledger is not compensation. Ledger is the money that is basically, it's almost like you have a profit and loss branch, and they put $2,200 in your branch, and now you get to pay yourself. Now, how do you pay yourself? Well, comp comes from ledger, and it goes to Every. Every is where you get paid. And if you're wondering, well, why can't I get logged into my Every account? Because it's your personal email address, not your NEXA email address. That's probably what you're struggling with. Anyway, you got to log into your Every account and see how much money comes into your comp, and your comp is subtracted from your ledger. So now let's talk about how that works. Let's pretend for a moment we got this $100,000 loan still, and we charged 275 basis points. The $2,750 check went to NEXA. NEXA took their two portions, which is the 25 basis points and the 12%, leaving you with $2,200. Now, if it's a lender-paid loan and it's comped at 275 basis points, then you still have to get paid out of a bucket. If you haven't set up buckets because you've never done correspondent, then it's just going to be paid in the 220 bucket. Okay, so now you've got a bucket and you've got a correspondent loan or a lender paid loan of any kind. Any correspondent loan would be a lender paid loan. And you set, this was a self-gen deal. Maybe it's your 220 bucket for whatever that would be. Self-gen, you brought it yourself, however that works. Well, there's also another, you could also have a 110 bucket, and you could have an exempt or borrower paid bucket. We'll talk about those two later, but for now, in that 220 basis points bucket, that $2,200 that got paid into your ledger would go to you in compensation, and it would leave your ledger empty. That's the way it would kind of be set up. On a 275, if your bucket's 220, you're leaving your ledger empty every time. So you could set your bucket up at 210 because you want to always leave 10 basis points in your ledger. Or you could set this bucket up at 200 to leave 20 basis points in your ledger. You say, Josh, why would you leave money in your ledger? Well, you have that $80 a month or $75 a month tech fee. Or you might want to buy business cards, or you might need some dollars in your ledger. Maybe you pay for some credit reports. So you could set a bucket up however you want it. If you set up a 154 basis points bucket, and I'm having this little panic. Did I spell bucket wrong all of these times? Okay, I didn't spell bucket wrong. It's so funny to me when I put something on the board or I put something on the screen, I see it and I'm like, oh, did I spell that wrong? Anyway, if you charge 275 basis points and you put it in your 154 bucket, which 154 is based on if you're charging 200 basis points, I wanted to check myself and make sure that 154 is based on charging 200 basis points. So let's do the math. On a $100,000 deal, 2 basis points is $2,000 minus the 250 equals 1750 times 0.88 equals 154. 154. See how I checked it? That's how you can always check. If you're always worried, am I making enough money to cover my comp bucket? Then you just think it through. With a $100,000 loan, and then now you go backwards and you make sure whatever that loan amount is that you charge 2% to hit a 154 bucket. But if you charge 275 and you had it in your 154 bucket, then what would happen is $1,540 would go into compensation and $660 would go into your ledger. And that's good because now you've got $660 to spend on business expenses or marketing or whatever you want to charge. Maybe you buy leads. Okay, in a 66 basis point bucket, if you charge 275 on a $100,000 deal, it's going to work out like this. You're going to get a small amount of comp and a big amount of ledger. See, NEXA's not taking more money from you if your compensation bucket that you chose is smaller. They're just leaving it in different places because this is what you're allowed to be paid if you chose this source. Okay, if you have a 110 bucket set up, then you'd have comp of 110 and ledger of 110, which would be $1,100 to compensation and $1,100 to ledger. If you choose to be, if you do a loan that is exempt or you do a borrower paid loan, then you can take all 220. Or let's say you didn't charge 275, you charged 245 or 250 or 230 or whatever it is. After you do the math and you get down to your compensation, remember, how do you do the math? You take out 25 basis points and you take out 12% or times 0.88, then you can put whatever amount in the comp you want to. You say, Josh, what if I did a borrower paid deal and it's exempt, but I still want to leave some money in my ledger? Well, then in the notes, you just simply say, pay me $1,400 and leave $800 in my ledger. It's pretty simple. It's not that complicated, but it kind of helps to think it out like this. Now, let's look at another thing. What is the ledger? Well, the ledger is when you go into loan officer support and you click ledger and then you scroll down, then you'll see all of the calculations happen in your ledger. And you'll notice here that my ledger balance got up to $4,700 there, and they took out this it's $317 for an admin fee, and they took out this compensation, and it left me a balance of $2,145.54. Okay, so you say, Josh, okay, that's my ledger, but where is my NEXA $100? Well, your NEXA $100, you get this exciting time where, boom, this green line pops up in the top of your ledger, and it says positive balance. Now, that's not your ledger, it's your reimbursement ledger. That's two different places where dollars are sitting for you that you can spend for NEXA business expenses, buying leads, paying a virtual assistant, paying for business cards, marketing, signs, whatever you need. And you say, well, Josh, how do I spend that? Well, you can also take money from this ledger and have it transferred to your bill and spend card. You say, Josh, I thought it was a Divvy card. It used to be called Divvy, but the crazy nuts changed a great name, Divvy, and changed it out to bill and spend. But that's the way it works. You have money. Now, in my scenario, when I want to know, okay, how much money do I have for expenses, for my NEXA expenses? I have to go and add up my ledger, add up my reimbursement ledger, and add up how much money's on my Divvy card or my bill and spend card, and that helps me know how much money I have in my expense account for NEXA. Does that make sense? Hope that's all. Now, any questions, text me, call me, email me. I'm not making this video to cause you to not ask for help. I'm not making these videos to cause you to not call me. I'm just making these videos because sometimes you just want a little refresher. You want to remember this stuff. And so there it is. I hope that helps. Thanks for watching.